Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today I have a rock star on the show. James Wittaker is on. He's a 3 times best-selling author, speaker, and entrepreneur. He's interviewed more than 300 of the world's leading athletes, entrepreneurs, and business leaders to unlock their secrets to success. He's going to share all of this with us. His books have been translated into more than 10 languages. His book, Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy, is a modern companion to the best-selling self-help book of all time. He is passionate about helping entrepreneurs and C-level executives win the day every single day. So make sure that you share this out. We're going to talk about the Think and Grow Rich movie that he created, produced. All kinds of cool stuff is coming. So make sure you share this out. We'll be right back with James Wittaker in just a moment. And we are back. Let me bring James on. James, welcome to the show.
I am here. How you doing, Ken? Great to see you, my man.
Man, I am so excited to have you on. I told you I have a trip coming up as soon as we're done here, but I thought if it would have been anybody else, I would have rescheduled, man. But I'm like, I'm not rescheduling James Wittaker. No way.
This will give you some energy for the road trip.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited to have you on. We met out at Ramey's house, and that was a phenomenal event for Don Green and Napoleon Hill Foundation. And I know a little bit about you, but not a lot about you. I love the movie that you put out a few years ago, the Think and Grow Rich movie. It's incredible. But let's start with, before we get to that, let's talk about where you were born and raised.
Brisbane, Australia. That's my accent. 39 years old now. I moved to the US when I was 28 years old, but yeah, born and raised in Brisbane, Australia, and it's a beautiful part of the world. A lot of really nice beaches, and anyone who loves the outdoors, then Australia is a great place to be. So that's how I grew up. Was running around barefoot, which my daughter, who's 3 years old, replicates in Los Angeles. So preschool teachers keep telling me every day, you need to get your daughter to learn to put her shoes back on. But that was it. A beautiful part of the world. I'm very grateful to have had an upbringing that enabled so much outdoor access and a love of nature.
You know, I don't know if I don't think I told you this. Maybe I did. My 12-year-old daughter is literally obsessed with Australia. Did I tell you that?
I think you did. Yeah, I think you did.
She's obsessed, dude. I mean, she's like, she's got this plan. She's going to go help marsupials in the zoo when she it's just like, okay. So you were there, did you go to college over there, or
I did, university? I finished high school, and I didn't really know what the path was for me. And it's a question that I see a lot of people ask people in high school. I still do that instinctively. It frustrates me whenever it comes out of my mouth, that question of, what do you want to be when you're older? Yeah. And I had no idea what I wanted to be when I was older. And really the high school education system, and I'm very grateful. I went to a really good school, but to me, it really feels like it put me in two different categories. It's like there are people who are smart and there are people who are stupid, and I felt like I was one of the people based on what we call the OP score, the overall positioning score, that I was not one of the smart people, which of course made me one of the stupid people. So when you have that moment there of you're greatly restricted in terms of the university courses that you can get into, and it's from that moment, from school to access to university, where these things, it's just like a little chip into you that takes away from your self-worth. So I actually enrolled in a degree of, it was a Bachelor of Arts majoring in English and writing, which was, there weren't too many options available for me for that university that I wanted. I could have gone to a bunch of different universities, but I wanted to go to the one where all of my friends were going, which was called the University of Queensland. And I enrolled in a Bachelor of Arts majoring in English and writing, and quickly expanded after that to add in a business component of that. And it was really through that moment that I realized eventually, when I would go and do an MBA in the USA, just how important it is to really want to do the education that you're doing. Like, what's the reason? What's the purpose? How is it equipping you and making you capable enough to solve a problem that you're really passionate about?
Yeah.
And how are you going to apply yourself to get that result? I've done a whole bunch of different educational programs. I've got 2 bachelor degrees, a diploma and an advanced diploma of financial services, and now a master's of business administration. And I don't have them anywhere. No one has ever seen a degree of mine sitting anywhere, because they don't mean anything to me. But things like relationships, they mean so much to me. So relationships is really, and that the notion that the most important opinion is how you feel about yourself. These are the things that mean a lot more to me than a piece of paper.
What's interesting is, and Joe Ingram's being funny, he said, is it just my YouTube, or is he talking funny?
Maybe both, Joe. Maybe both.
But, I think that I had Brian Tracy on the show, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months ago. And he was my hero, because I walked out of high school in 12th grade and never went back, didn't go to college. And I always felt like a loser for a long time. Right. And I'm like, and then I remember at like 23, 24 years old, I heard Brian Tracy's story, and I'm like, he's a high school dropout too. Yes, there's a chance. And I just think about that. And I think about how, we put so much pressure on kids at that young age to figure out what they're going to be. And I don't know, man. I don't think that's cool. I don't think it's cool we do that to our kids.
Yeah, I agree. And I interviewed a guy called Simon T. Bailey, who's an amazing speaker. And he actually said to me, the best thing to do is to ask kids, what problem do you want to solve? Or what problem will you put on this earth to solve, rather than what you want to be when you're older? And I was like, whoa, that is great. I'm going to borrow that one.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So you said you came to the US and did your MBA here. Where did that all happen? Were you in Australia your whole life, just hoping that someday you could move to the US?
Yeah. It's an interesting question, because a lot of people from Australia go over to the UK, and I just had literally zero desire to go on, crap weather and all the other, they follow soccer and all these different things that don't do a great deal for me. So I always thought that America was, such like the epicenter of the world in so many ways. And I wasn't really thinking about it in terms of the bigger picture at that point. I actually enrolled in an MBA because I wanted to go and get a job and go down that consulting route and work really long hours with really cool companies, and entering that MBA program that was 9 months in Boston in Massachusetts. So I was there during the year that the marathon bombing was on, and my girlfriend at the time was actually running in that marathon, and I was supposed to meet her at the finish line, except I had a university, because it was a public holiday, except I had a university activity that was on that day. Otherwise, there's a very good chance, almost certainty, that I would have been there when the bombing went off.
Wow.
And entering the MBA, it made me realize it just, you can do these programs with the best of intentions, but it's like a washing machine. It just, spins you around and just spits you out in a completely opposite direction. And that direction for me was entrepreneurship, because that year in Boston and then the 3 months in Shanghai, it was the first time that I'd really been around entrepreneurs at such a high concentration. People who are my age and younger, who were getting after it with whatever they wanted to do in terms of creating their business and wanting to solve that problem and acquiring resources like funding. They were doing their pitching rounds and refining their concepts. So with some friends, we would meet till 4 a.m. and have a couple of beers and eat pizza. And the amount of business concepts that I have still sitting on a Word document, hundreds and hundreds of them that have never seen the light of day, that are, some of them are pretty funny as well. Like I was going to start a mobile app company at one stage. I was going to create a company that had every single menu in the world from every restaurant that you could just go and access. Obviously, things like that have been incorporated now into Yelp and a whole bunch of other ones. But so many different things like that. But that was the entrepreneurial journey. And it was after that where I then went and started my own businesses, which led to so many other things. And to sort of tie all that in with Think and Grow Rich, the movie, it was only when I had sat down with people who had kicked off that project and they just said to me, look, we love your energy. We need to have you involved in this project in some capacity. How can we make that happen? And I basically said to them, well, there's a book about, the Think and Grow Rich book is 13 principles. Why don't you write a new book and release it alongside the movie where you introduce each principle in a modern context and tell the stories of people who have been able to personify that principle, because people these days just don't identify as much with your Thomas Edisons, your Henry Fords. They like all the people who are in the movie like Barbara Corcoran, Rob Dyrdek, because they see them on TV constantly.
Yeah.
And that's where they said, come on board, write the book, be executive producer of the film. And that was the moment for me when I was like, wow, this is the journey into personal development and a journey that I think I'll be in for the rest of my life.
So I guess I'm sorry. I have like 15 questions hitting my mind at once. What qualified you to do that? I guess is really like, where did the qualifications come from?
Yeah, good question. So I had about more than 10 years in the financial planning world before that.
Okay.
So I'd run an advisor team with more than $2 billion under management. I'd already written a best-selling book on personal finance and motivation and personal development that was named Book of the Month by Money Magazine and had done really well in Australia. So that was I already had those runs on the board. And at the time when I had the meeting with the people who had kicked off the film project, I'd also started, I think, about 4 separate companies at that point. So I had a lot of real world business experience, which experience isn't the best teacher. It's the only teacher, as they say.
Yeah.
And I'd also interviewed an enormous array of people for different projects and things that I've been involved in. Now, that being said, that still didn't, at least in my mind, qualify me as someone enough to write a modern companion to the best-selling self-help book of all time. I mean, this is a Napoleon Hill Foundation project. Right. So the goal with that really was just, look, let's not overthink it. We're not writing a substitute. We're writing a companion. I need to do it in my own way. If this is one big lofty goal, what's the best way to achieve that? Well, it's to break it down into different goals, into like smaller goals. And that would be, what's each chapter going to be about? What are we going to include in each chapter? Who are we going to interview? What are their stories? Let's go and have those interviews and what came through. How does the story need to change? And then putting it all together. I wrote that book in, I think it's about 70 or 80,000 words. I wrote that in 9 months with more than 500,000 words in research notes. It was a really fast-paced scramble, but I'm writing is something that I've just always been pretty good at naturally.
Joe, and I this is actually kind of it's funny, but it's a good question too. So you faked it. I think, kind of, when you're on an endeavor that you've never really done, you kind of have to, like, it's to some level, right?
Well, there's something I've been thinking about so much lately. I don't know if you're a Top Gun fan, but Top Gun is my favorite movie of all time. The original Top Gun. There's a scene there. I think 30 years on, I don't have to say spoiler alert for what happens in the first movie, but there's a moment where what happens with Goose. What happens with Goose.
Yep.
And then Maverick is having that moment where he's trying to figure out what's going on. And Viper said, is it Viper? Who said, just keep sending him up. Just keep sending him up. And that's what I love. And that's something that I've done my entire life. It doesn't matter what has happened, what adversity I have faced, or what challenge I have gone through, or what's in front of me, or how hard I have been hit. I have this voice in my head that says, keep sending him up. And that's what I do. I just keep standing up and moving forward. I'm not getting overwhelmed by these opportunities. I'm just trying to add as much value in the present as I can. So the goal is not to write the book. The goal is to say, if I'm interviewing Sharon Lecter, how can I give her the best interview that she's ever done? And then how can I tell that story in the best possible way? And then once that is done 26 times for all the people in the book, how can I promote this in the best way possible? And that's what's led to companies like Success Magazine reaching out and saying, can you be a speaker for our Speakers Bureau, and writing more books with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and a bunch of other things like that. But I think that Top Gun line of keep sending them up is something interesting we all need to remember.
Amen, man. Because you don't, you don't know all the steps, how they're going to unfold. You just have to take that first step and go. I would imagine, you know, Ben Gay the third. He actually worked with Napoleon Hill years ago. Bob Donnell's on here watching with us as well. So you back up a little bit. So you came over, you got you got an MBA, right? You got and you got in. You said you got into the financial planning world for a while. I just don't. I'm because I know writing books. I've written some myself. Writing books and making movies have really nothing to do with financial planning.
I can map it. I can map it out for you better, maybe, Ken. So after high school, that's when I started working, and my family's been in financial planning. So I feel like I've been in financial planning for my entire life, because at 8 years old, I was selling books at the events that my dad was speaking at. That was like really my education for entrepreneurship. So I was involved in financial planning in a whole different array of roles and exposure to different companies and all of that type of thing. But it was when I moved to America, when I was 28 years old, that is where I farewelled the financial services industry and never went back. I've done, I've helped people in different ways, and it's a handy skill to have, because I'm a qualified financial advisor. I just never have been. I've managed the advisor teams. So it was from that moment, that's when I started launching my own businesses. So the first business launched actually during the MBA program, because I wanted to use it as a case study. It was a social media brand in the fitness realm that did really well. We had, I think, like 500,000. We built a community of about 500,000 people on social media, and then we turned that into one of the world's largest CrossFit gyms that was based in Australia, that has had professional sporting teams and some of the most recognized people in the fitness world, people from the NFL and all that who have come down there. It's the fourth largest CrossFit gym in the world. And then we launched a clothing company on the back of that sponsored people in the Commonwealth Games, the Olympic Games, and the CrossFit Games. And then after that, a whole bunch of different, I feel like I've launched products and companies in just about every industry you can think of. So I'm a bit of a Swiss Army knife in terms of different industries, and having coached so many people in different industries as well. It's interesting. It's sort of a tough elevator pitch at times. That's why I focus on just helping people win the day. That's much more simple than this eclectic background that we're talking about.
I think, I've been an entrepreneur, excuse me, my entire adult life. And I think that, I look at people that have so much potential to own their own business, do phenomenal things, but they're really attached to a paycheck. And I can't relate to that. Like, I don't know if you're like me, or I cannot relate to a guaranteed paycheck and clocking in and clocking out. But there are people like that they really want to do their own thing. What do you think? What do you think it holds people to that paycheck and not going out and pursuing what they're really here for?
Well, I think there are people who find meaning in working for someone else. Now, this has been a big journey that I have been on. I reached a point when I became my own boss for the first time, where I thought, This is the only way to be happy. The only way to be happy is to figure out what's the problem that you want to solve. Who are the people that you want to solve that for? Take holidays whenever you want to do that. Pay yourself whatever you want. Hire whoever you want. I thought that was the only way to be happy.
Right.
And then, fast forward a few more years on the entrepreneurial journey where you can see all the perils of all of those different things. I mean, there are so many things that can go wrong on that entrepreneurial journey. Like, it is unbelievably tough. Every time I feel like I would never sort of verbalize it. But, sometimes when you've been on the grind for so long that you think to yourself, God, this has to be a win. Like, I've done the reps. I've eaten all the shit. I've done everything. I'm ready for success in this field. And inevitably something comes out and it's 100 times or 500 times harder than you think it's going to be. I think you need to find meaning in whatever it is that you're doing. I had a guy who tried to apply for something that I was running a couple of years back, like a really high level coaching program that would have cost him a lot of money. And I asked him what his goals were. And his goals was to have enough money to be able to pay for his daughter's high school. And he was wondering whether or not he should go and open a restaurant. And I said to him, and what he was doing at the moment, he was doing long hours as a corporate cleaner. So he was going and cleaning offices and that type of thing. Yeah. And I had told him, I said, you have enough money to pay for your daughter's high school right now? And he said, yes. And I said, the thing that you need to do, if that's your big goal, is to put your daughter in high school, is to suck it up and do that. And then once she's out of high school, that is your opportunity to be able to go and do something else, to go all in. He might have had the best passion ever for having his own restaurant, but the risk that could bring on could destroy him, could ruin the one goal that he has in terms of his daughter's education, and could completely derail his life. That could lead to divorce, losing the family home, all of these different things. So when you're clear on what that win is, and just making sure that you can find meaning in those different things. It's taken me a long time to be able to do that. That being said, I don't think I could ever go back and work for someone else ever again. I don't think I'm wired like that, and I think there's a certain percentage of the population who isn't wired like that. But if you're one of those people who isn't wired like that, the black sheep, the people who don't fit in with the rest of the flock, you need to get unbelievably good at two attributes and nothing else. And that's resourcefulness, meaning that you can acquire all of the resources that you need, things like relationships, money, all of those different things that you need to make your wildest dreams come true. And resilience. So when life kicks you in the ass, as it does for all of us, that you can keep moving forward and find the gift in this. Because something I mention in speeches all the time is how you respond when adversity inevitably strikes is what separates ordinary people from extraordinary achievers.
It's the truth. I'll never forget, I had a situation with employees that was bad, and Grant Cardone him and I were talking a lot, and he said, you need to clean house. And I'm like, I can't, man. Like they actually do some important tasks. And long story short, he called me after my vice president resigned, and he's like, congrats on the VP quitting, man. Now you can go. And I'm like, you don't understand. Hell is on, like, it's raining down on me right now. But, I think that, you're right. I always wonder, like, and I don't know if you're like this or not, but I always wonder, like, why don't people look for that greater purpose? Like, I don't understand ordinary, and I'm not bashing it in any way. I know that there are people who are just happy in life, clocking in, clocking out, 40 hours, whatever, but I just can't relate to that. I don't understand it.
Yeah, there's people. So there are some, to give you an example of someone who can find an enormous amount of meaning in their day without needing to have their own wildest entrepreneurial aspirations. The people that I'm thinking of there would be mothers, people who stay at home with their kids, who can raise the next generation. Like, it's the most important job, is making sure that we can usher in the next generation as leaders. And the people that you're mentioning there, these are the ones who you might be driving and you see, it's like, 7 or 8 in the morning, and they're drinking those giant cans of Mother Energy drink. Like, they're destroying their health before the day has even begun. And they're, they're popping outside for cigarette breaks, and they're just going through the motions each and every single day. I have nothing in common with those people, and I have no desire to be around those people in any capacity. John Assaraf from The Secret, I asked him once, how do you, there's a lot of people in the world that need help, and you're someone, Ken, who wants to help. Bob Donnell, who's on here before, who he really wants to help a lot of people. I really want to help a bunch of people. And if we try and pull all of those people up who aren't ready for the help, then they're going to end up pulling us down, and we're going to get burnt out. And having conversations for 45 minutes with a whole bunch of different people, thinking where ego gets in the way for us, where we think, look, I'm really going to change this person's life with one 45-minute conversation. I asked John Assaraf, what do you do in that situation? And he said, help the people who want the help, not the people who need the help. And I was like, oh, that is such a brilliant way to put it. Help the people who want the help, the ones who said, yes, I want change. I want to believe in something greater. I'm ready for your help, and I will show you through my actions or an investment if required, or whatever they're going to do. I just recorded a podcast on this. People admire heart, and they admire heart and they admire hustle. And if someone, I don't care what job you have or where you're at in your career, if you show me through your actions that you have heart and you have hustle and you want to get to a bigger picture, I will do everything I can. But there could be someone who doesn't display those two attributes, and they could talk the talk, but you can just tell straight away they're not ready for it, and they are not the people you need to focus on.
I know, but I have that obsession with changing their minds. No, you really do. You don't even it's so cool up here at the top of the mountain. You got to come, man. And they're like, no, we're happy down here.
For sure. And I will say, Ken, actually, I've sort of, over the next few months, a big thing about what I want to do is really dive in even more into the science of motivation. Having interviewed, you have, so many people now, I've got the ultimate real world practical experience of this, but I want to dive a little bit more into the science of these things. How can we incentivize desire being the first principle of Think and Grow Rich? Napoleon Hill wrote that the starting point of all achievement is desire. So how do we incentivize desire? And that's where I think allocating resources to really poor communities who have no good role models, who have no good mentors, they don't know anything else of what's possible. I've interviewed and personally coached a whole bunch of special forces operators, like Navy SEALs and British Special Forces and people like that. And in almost every case, the moment they leave their special forces community, the moment they go from active service, things get really pear-shaped for them, because they're not around winners anymore. They don't have that discipline and that structure. They don't have that incentive of they don't have a mission. So that's what you need to do. You need to figure out what's your mission and who are the people that you're going to surround yourself with to help you move forward.
I have a theory that people are stuck in their stories, their stories of BS that aren't even true, and so they don't try as a result. And I think that's just a natural defense mechanism that is kind of innately built in each of us. But so go back to when you wrote this book, and do you have a copy of it you can hold up?
Yes, I do.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah, let's not here. I'm going to give you full screen. Hang on. There you go.
Think and Grow Rich, the legacy.
Yeah.
It's my, when I had a little less gray hair on the, on the back there.
Nice.
And this one right here, I won't grab it because I don't want my whole bookshelf to fall down. That one there is in is thinking at this book in Japan. It's in Japanese. Now I don't speak Japanese, so but Don Green assures me that it is Think and Grow Rich, the legacy in Japanese, and I have seen my name mentioned in there in English characters. So it's amazing now that the book is translated in 15 different languages, and Don, Don Green, I have an unbelievable amount of respect for. He does such an incredible job at continuing Napoleon Hill's legacy, more so than anyone, I believe, who's been on this planet, because he's doing all his reps behind the scenes. Yeah. He's doing things like securing the foreign rights translations to these books. So things like Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy, and Outwitting the Devil, and the original Think and Grow Rich can appear in countries like Brazil and all around the world.
Dude, Outwitting the Devil, unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. So and I think you're going to sell at least one book today.
Shout out Brandy.
Yeah, make that 2, because I don't own the book either. I'm going to buy a copy. So let me ask you this: is there a place where people can get a signed copy from you?
Yeah, send me an email and we'll sort something out. We can take care of that.
Awesome. So we'll get that. And what's the website address, so I can at least pop that up here?
Yeah, go to for the book. Like, the book's available on Amazon, but for my personal one, if you want to send me an email, it's jameswitt.com. JamesWhitt.com.
WHIT. Do I have your name spelled wrong on here?
Well, look.
Is it W-I or W-H-I?
W-H, but I have, because all my social media things for the most part are James Witt, because jameswhittaker.com was already taken and it's very, very long. So a lot of people actually think someone messaged me yesterday on Instagram and said, "Were you born in Logan County?" I don't even know what Logan County is. I wrote back and said, "My last name's Whittaker, not Witt, and I was born in Brisbane, Australia." So I've heard it all. I've heard it all.
So jameswitt.com is your website too?
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So I've got like a contact page on there. So if anyone wants to reach out, that'll come.
Okay.
That'll come
yeah. I'm going to put that up on the screen here. So you decided to write this book, and it was based on other people wanting you to?
Yep.
Wow.
Exactly. So these people, they were launching the film and hadn't even thought about the book. Every single movie that has come out has a book component either before or at exactly the same time. So I'd explained to them, this is an absolute no-brainer. Now, I knew literally nothing about films apart from watching Top Gun, which we mentioned earlier, although I had watched Top Gun about 100 times, but I knew nothing about the film business. But I realized as well during that project that knowing nothing about an industry can actually be a really big strength, because you see things that other people don't see, because you're not sort of tainted by, I don't mean tainted in a bad way. You're just looking at it through a fresh perspective. So, but something I did know was the book industry. I knew the traditional publishing route. I knew the self-publishing route. I knew what it was like to do those things in different countries, and had a technical background in writing. And even when I submitted the manuscript, they said that it's the cleanest manuscript they have seen, alongside Jim Stovall's. Jim Stovall, for anyone who, amazing guy. Yeah, so Jim Stovall, went blind at the age of 18 and went on to write 30 best-selling books. So to be mentioned alongside that was great. So that was how it all got involved. It was me giving them an idea for them to run with, not for me to be involved in. I said, "You've got this project that you're doing. It's an absolute no-brainer to do this." And that's when they rang me up and they said, "Can you do it?" And I said, "Yes, wow. I will knock it out of the park for you." And that's what happened.
That's incredible, man. Yeah. Mark Victor Hansen's a really good friend of mine, and he talks, he's done a lot with James Stovall. That's amazing, man. Absolutely amazing. So what, in keeping with the theme of this show, your life sounds magical, like you've had no challenges.
I have 2 screaming kids inside the house. I could bring it. No, okay. They're pretty good usually.
No, but what are some of the things along the way that I've interviewed 460, 470 people now on this show. And I always find it curious that somebody like you, man, like you've reached some super high pinnacles in life, and but what are some of the challenges that you've had that you were like, okay, this is it. That's a wrap. We're not getting through this. Shut it down. Like, what are some of the challenges you faced?
It's a great question. And I want to answer that by saying I've interviewed people now who have come through the most harrowing things I could even fathom. I couldn't even imagine what these things have gone through. I no longer view challenge or adversity as a weakness. I actually view it as a strength. It's like anytime that you feel like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been hit with this again. The universe has presented you with a problem that you need to solve that will make you stronger, more resourceful, and more resilient, like we mentioned earlier, to be able to move forward. So
Yeah.
I don't think about these things. Now, that being said, this has been like this year now when everything's great. This has been one of the toughest years, if not, actually, no, this would be by far since, let me sort of take you back a bit, actually, Ken. So when I was in high school, I used to have these things where I would faint and I would throw up randomly. It was a really weird thing. And it was only when I got older, I realized it was this crippling anxiety condition. There were times when, you'd be doing an exam in high school at a really critical time in your life. I had to put my hand up in front of hundreds of other people to be like, I need to go to the sick bay. I feel like I'm going to faint and throw up. And then 15 minutes after that, you're fine. The only thing you've got to show for it is that you've just, ruined the exam that you were there for. And you associate those feelings of what happened to not wanting to.
Whoa. I don't know what just happened. Can you guys still hear me? James, I don't know what happened. You're frozen. Can you hear me? Let me know in the comments if you can still hear me. It looks like James had a computer crash or something. Well, shoot. That stinks. I don't know what happened. If he comes back, we will bring him back on. That's terrible. I don't know what. Yeah, he's gone. Well, shoot, that stinks. Let me see if let me see. I'm frozen now too. Really? Okay. Well, we're going to have to possibly reschedule or see if we can get James back on. Oh, there he is. Hold on. James.
Can you hear me again?
Yes.
Oh, good. I'm so sorry about that. The power went out, and it's a beautiful day here in California. I don't know what happened. That literally hasn't ever happened before. So I apologize for that. The universe couldn't handle our conversation. But
yeah.
So I was where I was sort of finishing off before. It was as a result of those feelings that happened during the exam. It then meant that I had absolutely no desire to prepare for those things because it was the preparation that would bring back those feelings of what would happen during it. So a complete recipe for disaster. And I've sort of self-diagnosed so much later through life that just as we can think and grow rich, we can think and grow poor. And that's what I was doing for like the first 22, 23 years of my life. I was thinking and growing poor. I was in survival mode. And it was only at the age of 23 when I basically, at absolute rock bottom, from how that anxiety disorder had manifested and how I was just eating crappy food and not hanging around the right people and drinking too much and all of those different things, that I basically said, look, I'm not going to live like this anymore. And I was literally had tears rolling down my eyes. And I didn't go down the medication route. I've had friends who have gone down the medication route, which went well for them, but I just was just not something that I even really sort of entertained because I didn't want to be in the situation where I was facing something and didn't have the medication, and all of a sudden that would come rushing back. I didn't want to be dependent on that. So that impacted my life in insurmountable ways. Like I really, I often think that what would life look like if I hadn't had that crazy defining moment in my life? And then it turns out Many years after that, Success Magazine reached out and said, we want to feature you in the summer 2019 issue when the, Think and Grow Rich, the Legacy book came out. And I was like, what am I going to write about? And I had someone reach out to me and say, you've spoken so much about interviewing other people's stories. What about your story? And I realized it was a thing that I had kept hidden because I was embarrassed and ashamed about it, because I came from a good family in a good country and a good school. I had absolutely everything that I needed to succeed.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even close to success as a result of those things. So I didn't feel worthy of that, because there's a lot of people who've overcome so much more. And I was able to share that. And they gave me 3 pages in the print copy of the magazine, which was great. And then this year, which I sort of alluded to earlier, the things that's been really tough for me is that we have a 3-year-old daughter now, and we have a 7-month-old, and just the challenge of parenting. Like I thought I knew stress working a full-time job. I thought I knew stress being a business owner. I thought I knew stress with 1 kid. Now with 2 kids, with everything that's going on, I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp on what stress actually is. But our baby boy, who he's a healthy, very happy kid, but he still wakes up 2, 3, 4 times a night, which just means you're sort of playing defense every day. And our toddler just started preschool, so all of the feelings and emotions and everything that comes with that. So as a household with 2 working parents, trying to figure all this out has led to a lot of just a lot of conversations and things about what is the lifestyle that we want to have, and what are the conversations that we want to have with each other, and where are we at, which these are good times to have those conversations. But the stress that has brought on, everyone says you need to have kids to experience life and everything else, but they never talk about the stress that brings in. It can be, I can easily see for a lot of people how it would be too much. So this year for me, actually, for the back half of this year, I've actually cleared a lot of my plate just so I want to be there to drop my daughter off to preschool and pick her up every single day. I want to be able to, do things like cook meals in the home and just do a lot of things like that, because I didn't realize until recently a lot of the stress that I was carrying subconsciously and how those things had sometimes manifested in the home. Nothing too bad, but just being too irritable and too.
No. Tell me his power did not go out again. What is happening in this interview?
I'm here.
Oh, the universe is something is trying to stop this today.
Is that better,
oh,
Ken?
You're back. You're back.
I'm sorry, I've got no idea what is going on. It's usually very reliable, but I know the tech gods can have some interesting things in mind.
I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, like, because I have 2 kids. Wait till they're 16 and 12. Holy crap.
Everyone keeps telling me that. wait for the teenage years.
But I think about, like, the people who, when I interview somebody, I always sit here and I think, man, do they have it figured out? Because we're all like, I think we're all trying to, like, just get through life and go, what's the reason and how do we, and I look at somebody like Ramey, right? Who's talk about a story, but I look at somebody like him and I think he has no attachment to things at all, like none. I said, hey, I'm going to borrow your Bentley when we were there. And he's like, hey, here's the keys. I'm like, really? I was kidding. He's like, go ahead. He does not care. He's not attached to things, And I just wonder, like, as you coach people and you teach people to win the day, is that part of what you, like, try to let go of your attachment to the outcomes?
Yeah, it's absolutely, because high achieving people, who are the ones that I have coached, these are the people who, the moment they achieve something, they just throw that carrot again off into the distance. You are always chasing something, and it's never enough from a career standpoint. So the very first thing that I do with the clients that I work with, I'm more than happy to sort of reveal some of those things here. We get the people who feel like they're treading water. It's because of two things. They're not clear on who they are, and they're not clear on where they want to go. So that's the very first thing we do. We figure out who are you and where you want to go. We tie that into your purpose, and we create like a personal mission for you. Like, what do you put on this earth to do? And what are the standards that you are going to set? And how do those standards dictate the decisions that you make every single day, which will then determine your actions, which will determine your habits, which will determine everything else. And as part of that, what I do every morning, my morning routine, it starts off with the acknowledgement phase. So acknowledging that if you do not make the decision to win, you have automatically made the decision to lose. So that's it. I acknowledge that is that battle between good and evil, and I'm going to win today. It's why I have win the day written on my wrist on this My Intent bracelet.
Oh, that's
whoops! What am I doing here?
That's awesome, man. You sell those? Do you sell those?
I don't. Myintent.org, I think it's My Intent is the name of the company. And I think myintent.org is the place. So that's it. I look at that every single day and I make the decision to win. And then I have the sacrifice phase, which is a cold shower. So for 2 years now, I've been doing cold showers every single morning. So, and I should say there are places where in the world where the water gets unbelievably cold. So you just want to do something that's uncomfortable for you. So it's an uncomfortable cold shower every morning. And then after that, I get a little bit of sunshine. I do my journal where I write down what's a recap of the last 24 hours. I write down what I'm grateful for. What 3 things am I going to do to win today? What is the affirmation or intention that I want to carry for today? And then what is a lesson that I have from the last 24 hours, if there is a lesson from life. And what I encourage all of my clients to do when they write down what are their 3 things that are going to make today a win, that you never make them about the same category. Like, don't make them all about work. Don't make them all about fitness. Don't make them all about family. What's one thing for your business? What's one thing for your mental health? What's one thing for your family? Like, just mix them up to make sure that you're moving forward on those different things. And then you do your life's work before your busy work. Most people wake up and they're playing defense the whole day, checking emails and doing all of those different things. Do your 3 things that are going to help you win the day. Do the things that are going to move you closer to the life that you want. And above all, just be present with your family. And particularly during COVID, I want to mention this, like the last 2.5 years has been unbelievably disruptive. A lot of people have lost loved ones and haven't been able to, it's been a long time since I was able to see my family. 2.5 years before I was able to see my family, 11 nieces and nephews in Australia and my parents. So to go back and see them early this year was great. So it's important to double down on self-care. And that's what yesterday I was with Rob Angel, who's the founder of Pictionary. We went to a place called Pause Studio where you do like a 1-hour infrared sauna and cold plunge. You sort of alternate between both, and you feel so great as a result of doing something like that. So that's a bit of an insight into what I do and how I help my clients.
Sounds like some Jesse Itzler stuff there.
It does. I love Jesse. Yes.
He's constantly doing a cold plunge. And I love Sarah and her narration of his life. It's so funny. So let me, as you were talking a minute ago, you said the first 2 things that you do is say it again one more time, is
the acknowledgement phase, making the decision to win or you've automatically made the decision to lose. And then the sacrifice phase, something uncomfortable to prove that you've turned up for the day.
I think we were talking about when you take on a new client, or, the first 2 things you do, I forget what they were, but one of them was something about your purpose, right? What about people who I want to know how many people come to you and say, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't, and that's huge, right? Like I don't think people know.
For sure. It's a great question, Ken. And a lot of people need to focus on self-care first of all when that happens, because that awareness piece, like, you're bringing an enormous amount of stress into and your own complexity into every environment you're in. So what we want to try and do through the self-care method is to unravel that noise and that turmoil and that stress that you feel inside. And then from a place of a little bit of clarity, that's when you can write down, well, what are the things that I want to do in life, and who do I want to do them with, and when do I want to do them by, and what are my values? What are the things that I absolutely stand behind? So for me, that's things like integrity, being true to your word, things like enthusiasm, constant growth. Like these are the values that I have. And then taking that, and I have sort of worksheets and things that goes into that in a lot more detail, but that'll give you a really good start. And then from there, something that Stephen Kotler recommends is just grabbing a piece of paper and literally handwriting. What are 25 areas that you're interested in? Not being crazy specific, but still at least a little bit specific. And then the problems that you want to solve, and finding the intersections between those different things. And when you can start to do that, your brain is naturally going to look for the different connections, like that pattern recognition as you go about life. And that's when you can start to piece together your purpose and the meaning that you want to do. And I'm a huge believer in writing. I have something called a success plan template. So I do that at least once a year. It's actually available for free on the link in my bio on Instagram. And I do that with my wife once a year, where we do it individually, where we each write down what are all the goals and things that we have, and then we discuss that together. What are those? I need to know what's important to her, and she's very big on career and these different things. What's important to me? That's going to be things like having the freedom to do the things that I want to do. Yeah. And we talk about those things together and what life we want for our family. And then you turn those into quarterly markers, because a lot of people who are just so focused on goals but don't have purpose fail to recognize that goals are really just markers on the path once you have found your purpose and your meaning. So that's just a few things that'll hopefully help some people.
Do you think there's a fast track to finding your purpose? An easy way to find it?
Yeah, so many people are busy trying to force it. And sometimes it's like, you can be in the shower and you're like, oh my God, I that's my purpose, or I've got this great idea that can happen. You don't find it by sitting on your ass doing nothing. I feel like you need to go out there. You got to go and attend events. You got to watch TED Talks. You got to go and meet a bunch of different people. You got to say yes to life and go and do those different things. And along the way, through the conversations that you have, when you're clear on the problems you have, you can start to do all of those different things. It was 33 years on this planet before I was able to figure out what my purpose was. And that was helping people win the day after a whole bunch of random things that brought me into that personal development world. And one of my favorite quotes from Steve Jobs is that you can never connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back. And you asked that question of like, what qualified me to be able to write Think and Grow Rich to Legacy? And I had accumulated all of those dots, and it was only looking back I was able to say, that's what I was doing those things for. It meant that I was ready for that opportunity and experienced enough to be able to present them with an idea that brought it right back on me to be able to be given that opportunity.
Wow. Bob says finding purpose is in your association with people like Ken and James.
I love it, Bob. And you too, my friend.
I love Bob. He was on my wife did something really cool last night. Bob was on there last night. It was incredible. So James, I want everybody, first off, everybody needs to see the movie. I'm a very visual person, so I like movies. I've never even listened to one of my own podcasts because I hate listening. I hate listening to podcasts. It's crazy.
And who loves the sound of their own voice as well? So.
Right. But I love watching videos, and your movie, the Think and Grow Rich movie, is just incredible. And I highly recommend it to everybody. Where can people find that movie?
tgrmovie.com, I think is where it's at. But if you search for Think and Grow Rich, the Legacy, it's available now in a bunch of different languages. You'll be able to check it out.
That's awesome. And the book obviously is on Amazon. I'm an Amazon influencer also. So if you ever want to do a live stream on Amazon, we can do that as well. So I just want to say thank you for coming on and sharing. I feel like I could talk to you all day. Like, you just have so much wisdom, and I love your energy. So thank you for coming on today and sharing with everybody.
Well, thanks for everything you're doing, Ken, to make the world a brighter place. I'm grateful that you have me on, and deeply honored to be here with you.
I'm grateful that you were here. So if you'll hang on for me, I'm going to end the live stream, and just hang tight for me, and let's chat for a minute. But everybody that's been on here, make sure you go to jameswitt.com, reach out to James. You can get a signed copy of the book. I'm going to buy a signed copy of the book from you. So I just thank you for being here. Thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you all later. Thank you, James.